Sophie Cunningham showed that she is, you know, the old Caitlin Clark enforcer. She is the Caitlin Clark enforcer. That has been shown. She is the enforcer that the Fever have needed for the last year, and she has responded. She has responded.
When Sophie Cunningham swaps her basketball jersey for a metaphorical Secret Service badge, suddenly it's not just a game, it's personal. Picture this, she's tailing Caitlin Clark like she's been officially assigned to presidential protection duty. The court becomes a battleground, every possession a security threat. Emotions erupt, locker room tensions boil over, the atmosphere, pure chaos. Sophie isn't just guarding, she's setting the tone. She's handing out defensive pressure like it's classified protocol. And every screen, every foul, every stare down feels like a line crossed. Teammates rally, opponents fume, the crowd losing its mind. It's not just basketball anymore, it's full-scale emotional warfare. And Sophie's leading the charge.
In there, and I'm thinking to myself, is anybody on this team gonna stand up for Caitlin Clark? JC Sheldon grabbing Caitlin Clark all game, clawing at her. It's like tonight was a brawl, folks. Tonight was a brawl, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, is anybody on this team going to stand up for? And Sophie Cunningham.
When Sophie Cunningham snapped, it wasn't some passing flare-up, it was the birth of a legend. This wasn't frustration, this was a full-blown superhero origin story in real time. She didn't just step on the court to compete, she came with a mission: dismantle the Connecticut Sun like she'd been circling the date all season. No hesitation, no mercy. What unfolded wasn't just drama, it was a declaration. A scorched earth statement. Sophie went nuclear, and the fallout, immediate and blazing. Tempers flared, the arena buzzed, then came the ejection, not as an end but as a final mic drop, all because she stood up when it counted. When Caitlin Clark took the hits, Sophie took a stand. No backpedaling, no apologies, just raw loyalty, heart, and fire. So now the silence is broken. And the question hangs in the air, was this the moment Sophie transformed from player to protector? If you ride with Sophie, drop enforcer Sophie in the comments. Let's break it all down because this story is just getting started.
Let's start with the play that set off the entire night. So as you guys can see here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin Clark. She swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin Clark nudges her off because JC stays in her face. And then Tina Charles runs over and is kind of wagging her finger in Caitlin Clark's face. And then Marina Mabrey comes out of nowhere and chucks her to the floor. Now let's watch this in slow motion. Here, JC Sheldon is guarding Caitlin, swipes her in the face. There's one. Going for the ball, swipes her in the eyeball. Caitlin's gonna have to start wearing goggles. And then Caitlin pushes her off of her, like, why are you still in my face? Marina Mabrey, bat out of hell, chucks Caitlin.
From the moment Sophie Cunningham laced up her sneakers, the entire WNBA should have felt the shift. This wasn't just another game on the schedule, it was a declaration of war. Sophie didn't clock into drop threes or finesse pick and rolls. No, she reported for duty with one mission in mind: protect Caitlin Clark at all costs. Forget the usual playbook, this was personal. Sophie wasn't out there playing basketball. She was enforcing a code, one that says if you even think about targeting Caitlin, you're going to feel it immediately and permanently. We're talking life-altering consequences, the kind that make you reconsider your career choices mid-possession. She moved like a human firewall, intense, unbreakable, and fully charged. Get too close to her perimeter and you weren't just risking a foul, you were risking getting absolutely torched. No hesitation, no second chances. In that moment, Sophie didn't just play defense, she became it. And if the rest of the league wasn't ready, that's on them.
Welcome to WNBA Fight Night, or as some people are saying, WNBA Raw. What a game that was. We had it all. We had basketball, we had fighting, we had blonde on blonde crime. Oh, such an epic. Oh, goodness. But at the end of the day, it resulted in an Indiana Fever W. 88-71, taking care of business.
Let's be honest, Sophie Cunningham wasn't just playing basketball out there like any ordinary teammate. No, she was operating on a completely different level. More like the head of elite-level security at a top-secret, off-the-grid facility area. 51 or somewhere equally mysterious, fully activated, razor-sharp, and utterly uncompromising. Her senses were dialed to 11, every muscle and neuron primed for action. and absolutely zero tolerance for any nonsense or disrespect, especially when it came to her teammate Caitlin Clark. This wasn't just a game to Sophie. It was a mission, a solemn duty she took seriously enough to make the court her fortress. The moment an opposing player dared to throw an elbow at Caitlin, whether intentional or accidental, Sophie didn't just notice, she didn't meander over or stroll casually in her direction. No, Sophie materialized out of nowhere, as if summoned by some unseen force. Like a shadow lurking on the edge of the court, finally stepping into the light with a purpose. It was as if she'd been waiting in the wings, biding her time, ready for that exact moment to unleash a storm of retribution. There was nothing accidental about her appearance. It was instantaneous, sharp and unavoidable. And when Sophie arrived, it wasn't with a friendly smile or a light-hearted warning. It was with the intensity and fury of 10 furious gym teachers all at once, combined with a crossover move so sharp, so brutally precise. It might as well have come with a legal disclaimer, warning, approach at your own risk. She wasn't just defending Caitlin's space on the court. She was making a statement that reverberated through every player, coach, and spectator watching. This was a clear message: cross Caitlin Clark and you'd better be ready to face the consequences. You accidentally bump into Caitlin right after the whistle. Congratulations. You haven't just committed a foul in the conventional sense, you've actually summoned the basketball version of the Grim Reaper. Except this Grim Reaper is no ethereal, faceless specter. No, she's tangible, fierce, and absolutely real, wearing a tight ponytail, jaw clenched like steel, eyes laser-focused, and carrying a mental ledger full of every slight, every foul, every moment of disrespect she's cataloged and is now ready to settle. There's no forgetting, no letting things slide. Sophie's archive of receipts is exhaustive and she's not afraid to cash them in. This wasn't random or reactive. It was pure strategy, a calculated game within the game. Sophie's role extended far beyond simply scoring points or blocking shots. She was guarding the future, protecting Caitlin's path like a sentinel standing watch over something priceless and fragile. If you thought you could test her, test them, or push boundaries without repercussions, you were mistaken. Sophie made sure you understood, loud and clear, that you were stepping into a long night of reckoning. Her presence transformed the court into a battleground where respect was demanded, and violations of that respect were met with swift and merciless responses. Every step she took was purposeful, every glare was a warning, and every move she made was loaded with unspoken consequences. It was the kind of defense that went beyond the physical, diving deep into psychological warfare, intimidation, control, and the sheer will to dominate the game's mental landscape. To witness Sophie Cunningham in this mode was to watch a force of nature, a guardian whose allegiance was absolute, whose loyalty was fierce, and whose resolve was unbreakable. She wasn't there to make friends or play nice. She was there to protect what mattered most. And anyone foolish enough to get in her way quickly learned that Sophie was not just a player on the court, but a relentless protector, a storm ready to be unleashed at a moment's notice. So if you ever found yourself on the receiving end of Sophie's wrath, you knew one thing for sure: this was no ordinary basketball game anymore. It was a high-stakes showdown where every move mattered. And Sophie Cunningham held the power to turn the tide with a single, devastating play. And trust me, when Sophie was on patrol, the court wasn't just a place to compete, it was a territory, fiercely guarded by a woman who wouldn't back down, ever.
Well, let's start here. This is, of course, Sophie and Sheldon going down the floor. Sophie tries to wrap her up, and Sheldon gets to the floor, and all hell breaks loose. And Sophie said, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. We'll go. So there's that. That, of course, was all a byproduct of this right here, folks. And I mean, when I tell you social media is setting the WNBA on fire right now, not in a good way, that's the understatement.
Sophie doesn't bother with the usual warm-up jogs that most players rely on to get their muscles loose and minds focused. Instead, she takes to the court like a sentinel on patrol, her gaze sharp and relentless, sweeping every inch of the space, as if it were her personal territory. Imagine a hawk, jittery with caffeine, eyes darting back and forth, never resting, every muscle coiled and ready to spring into action. That's Sophie. She's scanning the court with an intensity that borders on unnerving, her presence a constant warning to anyone thinking about causing disruption or stepping out of line. Her mind works like a tactical command center, anticipating every possible move, reading the play before it even begins. There's no wasted energy, no idle pacing. Instead, Sophie moves with purpose, as if she's already 2 steps ahead, intercepting chaos before it can even take shape. The moment something starts to spiral or a player tries to push past the limits, she's there, not waiting, not hesitating. She steps in like the court's judge, jury, and executioner all rolled into one fierce package around Caitlyn, her closest teammate and probably the biggest reason for her territorial vigilance. Sophie's defensive instincts reach a heightened level of alert. She doesn't just guard Caitlyn's space, she owns it. One wrong move from an opposing player, one careless attempt to sneak into Caitlyn's lane, and Sophie is already halfway across the court, closing the gap with the speed and precision of a striking snake. Her delivery of justice isn't just verbal or passive, it's physical and unmistakable. A shoulder check here, a sharp block there, subtle intimidation mixed with raw power. Sophie's body language never says let's play nice, it broadcasts something far more intimidating. Try me, test my limits, and you'll find yourself meeting your chiropractor sooner than you thought. Every stance she takes, every twitch of her muscles, every focused blink carries the message loud and clear. There's no room for nonsense or weak plays when Sophie's on patrol. Her court is a no-go zone for chaos and disruption, a battlefield where she commands respect through sheer force and unyielding presence. To watch Sophie in action is to witness a masterclass in controlled aggression, a dance between readiness and ruthless execution. She's not just part of the game, she is the game's fiercest enforcer, the guardian who won't let anything slide by unnoticed or unchallenged. If you find yourself on the wrong side of her defense, you're not just facing a player, you're facing an immovable force, a storm wrapped in determination and iron will.